I've been really, really busy, so we're going to continue on to Acts chapter 24. Paul appears before Felix. 5 days later, Ananias, the high priest, arrived with some of the Jewish elders and the lawyer Tertullus to present their case against Paul to the governor. When Paul was called in, Tertullus presented the charges against Paul in the following address to the governor. You have provided a long period of peace for us Jews, and with foresight have enacted reforms for us. For all of this, Your Excellency, we are very grateful to you, but I don't want to bore you, so please give me your attention for only a moment. We have found this man to be a troublemaker who is constantly stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is a ringleader of the cult known as the Nazarenes. Furthermore, he was trying to desecrate the temple when we arrested him. You can find out the truth of our accusations by examining him yourself. Then the other Jews chimed in, declaring that everything Tertullus said was true. The governor then motioned for Paul to speak. Paul said, I know, sir, that you have been a judge of Jewish affairs for many years, so I gladly present my defense before you. You can quickly discover that I have arrived in Jerusalem no matter than 12 days ago to worship at the temple. My accusers never found me arguing with anyone in the temple, nor stirring up a riot in any synagogue, or on the streets of the city. These men cannot prove the things they accuse me of doing, but I admit that I follow the way, which they call a cult. I worship the God of our ancestors, and I firmly believe the Jewish law and everything written in the prophets. I have the same hope in God that these men have, that he will raise both the righteous and the unrighteous. Because of this, I always try to maintain a clear conscience before God and all people. After several years away, I returned to Jerusalem with money to aid my people and to offer sacrifices to God. My accusers saw me in the temple as I was completing a purification ceremony. There was no crowd around me and no rioting, but some Jews from the province of Asia were there, and they ought to be here to bring charges if they have anything against me. Ask these men here what crime the Jewish High Council found me guilty of, except for the one time I shouted out, I am on trial before you today because I believe in the resurrection of the dead. At that point, Felix, who was quite familiar with the way, adjourned the hearing and said, Wait until Lysias, the garrison commander, arrives. Then I will decide the case. He ordered an officer to keep Paul in custody, but to give him some freedom and allow his friends to visit him and take care of his needs. A few days later, Felix came back with his wife, Drusilla, who was Jewish. Sending for Paul, they listened as he told them about faith in Jesus Christ. As he reasoned with them about righteousness and self-control and the coming day of judgment, Felix became frightened. Go away for now, he replied. When it is more convenient, I'll call for you again. He also hoped that Paul would bribe him, so he sent for him quite often and talked with him. After 2 years went by in this way, Felix was succeeded by Porcellus Festus, and because Felix wanted to gain favor with the Jewish people, he left Paul in prison. That's actually quite interesting. Now, it's been a while since I read the Bible, especially to all you fine folks out there. I just want to say that it's great to be back. I've been extremely busy, family, and it's something that I'm actually really enjoying, putting myself aside and taking care of family. It's very self-sacrificing to take care of your kids, and you kind of feel exactly like the characters in the Bible who sacrifice everything they have to protect those that are innocent. And you don't really see that a lot in today's society. Everybody wants fame and fortune and goods and services, but you don't really see a lot of people just want to step back and dedicate their lives to raising family. And the Bible's really, really good. It's been over about a month since I've read the Bible on the Exploring the Bible with Dave channel. I want to just say that I've been busy with family, and that I'm a computer programmer, and that I'm working on a very in-depth version of Hangman. I've actually recently completed a word list with everything important in the Bible because a part of me actually does like the Bible. I honestly do. It's not bad for a Jew that was brought up in a Catholic school system. It's given me a lot of hostility against the Catholic Church, but Christianity in itself, excuse me, is quite wonderful. And I actually do believe that if we live and work together, we can find harmony. And, it's actually quite funny because I was speaking to my mother the other day and I was actually quoting the Bible to her. And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Well, you put me in a Catholic school. And genetically, I'm Jewish." And, I was bringing up all these attributes and all these, quotes and stuff like that. And I was like, "Have you ever read the Bible?" This is the stuff they're teaching. Because I'm not going to lie, Catholic school's kind of a sham. I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be a jerk that comes off as being a jerk, because I'm not. I'm actually extremely open to a lot of ideas, but there's a lot of stuff outside of the Bible, outside of Jesus' teachings, that you kind of gotta shake your head at. But anyways, moving on to chapter 25, Paul appears before Festus. 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take over his new responsibilities, he left for Jerusalem, where the leading priests and other Jewish leaders met with him and made their accusations against Paul. They asked Festus as a favor to transfer Paul to Jerusalem, planning to ambush and kill him on the way. But Festus replied that Paul was at Caesarea, and he himself would be returning there soon. So he said, "Those of you in the authority can return with me. If Paul has done anything wrong, you can make your accusations." About 8 or 10 days later, Festus returned to Caesarea, and on the following day he took his seat in court, in order that Paul be brought in. When Paul arrived, the Jewish leaders from Jerusalem gathered around and made many serious accusations that they couldn't prove. Paul denied the charges. "I am not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws or the temple of the Roman government," he said. Then Festus, wanting to please the Jews, asked him, "Are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there?" But Paul replied, "No, this is the official Roman court, so I ought to be tried right here. You know very well I'm not guilty of harming the Jews. If I have done something worthy of death, I don't refuse to die. But if I am innocent, no one has a right to turn me over to these men to kill me. I appeal to Caesar." Festus conferred with his advisors and then replied, "Very well, you have appealed to Caesar, and to Caesar you will go." A few days later, King Agrippa arrived with his sister Bernice to pay their respects to Festus. During their stay of several days, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. "There was a prisoner here," he told him, "whose case was left for me by Felix. When I was in Jerusalem, the leading priests and Jewish elders pressed charges against him and asked me to condemn him. I pointed out to them that Roman law does not convict people without a trial. They must be given an opportunity to confront their accusers and defend themselves. When his accusers came here for the trial, I didn't delay. I called the case, and the next day I ordered Paul brought in. But the accusations made against him weren't any of the crimes I expected. Instead, it was something about their religion and a dead man named Jesus, who Paul insists is alive. I was at a loss to know how to investigate these things, so I asked him whether he would be willing to stand trial on these charges in Jerusalem. But Paul appealed to have his case decided by the emperor, so I ordered that he be held in custody until I could arrange to send him to Caesar. I'd like to hear the man myself," Agrippa said, and Festus replied, "You will tomorrow." Paul speaks to Agrippa. So the next day, Agrippa and Bernice arrived at the auditorium with several pomp, accompanied by military officers and prominent men of the city. Festus ordered that Paul be brought in. Then Festus said, "King Agrippa and all those who are here, this is the man whose death is demanded by all the Jews both here and in Jerusalem. But in my opinion, he has done nothing deserving death. However, since he appealed his case to the emperor, I have decided to send him to Rome. But what shall I write the emperor? For there is no clear charge against him. So I have brought him before all of you, and especially you, King Agrippa, so that after we examine him, I might have something to write. For it appears no sense. So For it makes no sense to send a prisoner to the emperor without specifying my apologies. The charges against him. Chapter 26. Then Agrippa said to Paul that you may speak in your defense. So Paul, gesturing with his hand, started his defense. I am fortunate, King Agrippa, that you are the one here in my defense today against all these accusations made by the Jewish leaders. For I know you are an expert on all Jewish customs and controversies. Now please listen to me patiently, as the Jewish leaders are well aware. I was given a thorough Jewish training from my earliest childhood among my own people and in Jerusalem. If they would admit it, they know that I have been a member of the Pharisees, the strictest sect of our religion. Now I am on the trial because of my hope in the fulfillment of God's promise made to our ancestors. In fact, that this is why the 12 tribes of Israel zealously worship God night and day, and they share the same hope I have. Yet, Your Majesty, they accuse me for having this hope. Why does it seem incredible to any of you that God can raise the dead? I used to believe that I ought to do everything I could to oppose the very name of Jesus the Nazarene. Indeed, I did just that in Jerusalem. Authorized by leading priests, I caused many believers there to be sent to prison. I cast my vote against them when they were condemned to death. Many times I had them punished in the synagogues to get them to curse Jesus. I was so violently opposed to them that I even chased them down in foreign cities. One day I was on such a mission to Damascus, armed with the authority and commission of the leading priests. About noon, Your Majesty, as I was on the road, a light from heaven brighter than the sun shone down on me and my companions. We all fell down, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is useless for you to fight against my will. Who are you, Lord? I asked. And why? And the Lord replied, I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now get to your feet, for I have appeared to you and appoint you as my servant and witness. You are to tell the world what you have seen and what I will show you in the future, and I will rescue you from both of your own people and the Gentiles. Yes, I'm sending you to the Gentiles to open their eyes, so they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. Then they will receive forgiveness for their sins and be given a place among God's people who are set apart by faith in me. And so, King Agrippa, I obeyed that vision from heaven. I preached first to those in Damascus, then in Jerusalem, and throughout all Judea, and also to the Gentiles, and all the must repent of their sins and turn to God, and prove they have changed by good things they do. Some Jews arrested me in the temple of preaching this, and they tried to kill me. But God also has protected me right up to this present time, so I can testify to everyone, from the least to the greatest. I teach nothing except that the prophets of Moses said what had happened. That the Messiah would suffer and be the first to rise from the dead, and in this way announce God's light to the Jews and Gentiles alike. Suddenly Festus shouted, Paul, you are insane. Too much study has made you crazy. But Paul replied, I'm not insane, but excellent, Festus. Why I am saying is the sober truth, and King Agrippa knows about these things. I speak boldly, for I am sure these events are all familiar to him, for they were not done in the corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do. Agrippa interrupted him. Do you think you could persuade me to become a Christian so quickly? Paul replied, well, whether quickly or not, I pray to God that both you and everyone here in this audience might become the same as I am, except for these chains. Then the king, the governor, Bernice, and all the others stood and left. As they went out, they talked it over and agreed. This man has done anything to deserve death or imprisonment. And Agrippa said to Festus, he could have been set free if he hadn't appealed to Caesar. Now that's the end of today's reading, and I think that's actually quite compelling. I actually do like the Bible, and I do love the lessons that it teaches, and that's why me programming a variant of Hangman for educational purposes has led me towards, I believe, Word List 13, which is all names appearing in the Bible and places and the books and whatnot are actually quite evidence of this situation. Now, before I leave you all here today, I want to say a very special thank you to my friend Nicole, who brought me back into the fold. Thank you so very much. I want to thank you all here today for listening to this video or watching it. No matter where you are in this world, thank you very much. And I want to say God bless you all and Godspeed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.